This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 135. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hello.
And Tam.
Yo.
So, last week when we did our show, we ran out of time. We were going to discuss Pokemon Sun and Moon, but we had already recorded like a 2-hour show. So
when we say that we've run out of time, we really mean it.
Yeah, we start recording somewhere between 9:30 on an average night, and when we hit midnight, we know we're in trouble. And we hit midnight last time. But then again, what do you expect when we didn't record a show for a week and we had 2 weeks worth of stuff to talk about? So yeah, Pokemon Sun and Moon. I have not made it super far in there, but I know other people have.
Made some games and some things.
I have made it far enough to get XP share, which isn't saying much.
I have not made it that far, but I do think it's an interesting an interesting new thing that they're doing here.
It is a way harder game than X and Y and Omega Ruby and is it Alpha Ruby and Omega Sapphire?
Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
Yeah, there you go. Ruby and Sapphire.
Yes, that.
It's a much harder game. I am not really well versed in Pokemoning, so I have a lot more trouble with these battles than I did with the previous ones, which has kind of slowed down my pace in the game because I am in this game for probably a different reason than most everyone else here is. I like collecting interesting Pokemon, and I could care less about battling with Pokemon. I just want to collect all of them.
So, in this game, you are Lily.
I am Lily, yeah. I would totally jam Pokemon into a bag, but by God, we should get Lily a Pokeball. I mean, I really want to save up my money and give her a Pokeball. Or, hell, she can have one of my Premier Balls.
Or just literally anything, because wow.
But yes, I feel like, maybe she should invest in something other than a bag.
Right.
So,
especially for a Pokemon that can teleport.
Yeah, maybe. I do think it's interesting how at the beginning of the game they are really hyping up the respect you need to pay to your Pokemon and the care you need to take to make sure your Pokemon are happy and still want to be doing hanging out with you. I'm very briefly into this game, and I still feel like I'm spending quite a bit of my time just taking the Pokemon I care about and playing with them by tickling them and feeding them food and making sure that their hair is brushed properly.
Yeah, that's a thing. And toweling them down after a match.
Yes.
That's all kinds of weird.
It's sort of an extension of what they did in X and Y.
Yeah, but it wasn't as integrated as it is.
It really wasn't. It was just sort of its own thing that you could basically ignore.
Right.
I mean, you still can, but it's more integrated if you don't want to ignore it.
Well, and some of the evolutions Eevee.
There's only one. There is exactly
Eevee,
one.
yeah.
It's just Eevee.
It all depends on how you're playing with your Pokemon, what you're going to get as an evolution.
Well, also, if they have status effects, you can cure them of their status effects by playing with them afterward.
Yes, that is extremely useful, and I have not used a single poison heal the entire game.
Yeah, or any other heal.
Basically.
No, I love it. It's oh, hey, I can play with my Pokemon and have them not be paralyzed or poisoned or anything.
Seems reasonable.
And if you forget to do that, then they almost all carry on into the next match. I'm damn it.
Well, and you actually have to be kind of quick to catch that little dialogue before it disappears.
It's up from you landing your last hit to the actual end of combat. You have a while to hit it.
Maybe I'm just slow at hitting it.
I mean, even if you do miss it, you can actually go in to your menu and have the care for Pokemon option.
Yeah, it's just less convenient that way.
So I do also want to point out, because it's kind of amusing to me, I started playing Pokemon Sun right at the same time I started playing Final Fantasy XV. And I would not have predicted that Final Fantasy XV is the game that gets me into the action quickly, and Pokemon has this just ridiculously long intro sequence that I'm like still not quite through.
But you gotta go find the Kahuna. He looks like a Kahuna.
Yeah, I'm like, what on earth does that even mean? And then I was like, are you the Kahuna? No, I'm not the Kahuna. Okay. You've got a weird Pokemon in a bag. That's strange. And then, like, I'm just now getting to my Pokedex. I remember it was like, hey, you, what's your name? Red. What's his name? His name's Blue. Okay, what Pokemon do you want? This one. Okay, good, go.
Man, I wish I could undo getting my Pokedex. Because that Pokedex is annoying as hell. It is way too chipper for me. Like,
although it is really chipper.
Can I exercise my Pokedex and, like, cast out the demon?
In fairness, I really wish that I could and put that Rotom in a Pokeball for my own uses, but sadly they don't let me. I chose perhaps the wrong Pokemon game to decide to play a monotype team through.
I wouldn't say that. I've had a lot of success doing the same thing, but
okay,
I went monotype fire.
Yes. I went monotype ghost.
Yeah.
You know what everything has?
Bite, basically, early game.
Bite, crunch,
Pursuit
astonish,
later.
pursuit. Yeah, no, it's a problem. It made the game extremely challenging, which meant it actually kept me really engaged through the whole thing, because it meant that I wasn't just... I sort of reached this point with earlier entries in the series where I just have my, like, power team, and whoever happens to be up front just crushes through the entire team because they're fast and powerful.
Man, that's what I wish I had in this game, because that used to let me capture lots of interesting Pokemon.
Yeah, in this I've had wild Pokemon encounters nearly wipe my party, and that's the first time that's ever happened to me.
That damn
Woodpecker.
woodpecker.
There's a different reason for that, though. At a certain point in the game, wild Pokemon can start calling for help. This does not take a turn. It can make some wild Pokemon battles take a very long time.
So,
or turn an already difficult one into an impossible one.
So I watched some streaming this afternoon of somebody shiny hunting, which involved basically exploiting the fact that the Pokemon calls for help to call another one of that type, and then just keep the one alive indefinitely, trying to make it call for help.
Call for a shiny?
Yeah.
They've had a chain mechanic in a bunch of the games at this point, and that's how it works in this one. The Pokemon calling for help have an extra chance to be shiny. It's actually easier than the mechanics in some other games.
But it still involves 400 or 500 battles in a row to finally get a shiny.
Yes. Well, only one battle, but 400 Pokemon potentially.
Well, yeah. Except for you have to keep going back and going to the Pokemon Center to regen your powers.
I will say that I really enjoy the experience of playing through a Pokemon game as a monotype team, because it forces you to make some really, really interesting build decisions that I otherwise wouldn't. I also love that they got rid of HMs. I think that more than anything makes me like this game so much more.
Because you just basically learn abilities, right?
Giant plus.
Yeah.
Well, you get Pokemon that can ride around and basically do what the HMs used to do for you. Need to break rocks? Call Tauros. Need to cross water? Call Lapras.
Which honestly made a hell of a lot more sense than HMs, because that's ultimately what I did with those Pokemon. Lapras was my swim across things Pokemon.
Yeah. Well, and it meant that you had each Pokemon only knows 4 moves, so out of the 24 moves that you have available, anywhere from
between 3 and 5 of them are taken up by this.
Yeah, or more, depending on how good your HM coverage is.
You never need to keep that around.
I don't know. I still have memories from Red Blue where you had to have all of them in the last cave.
You still don't need cut. You don't need cut after Vermilion Gym.
I feel like I remembered needing cut for something important.
Not in Victory Road.
Maybe not Victory Road. Either way, not knowing for sure which ones I need and don't, and not being willing to spoil myself means that I have to have them all on me.
There have been a few times where I've had to go back for cut because, quite frankly, I assume I won't need it after like the first third of the game.
Yeah, and what happens to me if that ever happens is I put the game down and never come back. Is usually how that works. Or I teach cut to a Pokemon so I can move on. And
That's usually what happens to me.
And it annoys me because that's one more slot gone.
But yeah, cut does, as far as I can tell, doesn't even exist in this game.
Nope.
Strength also seems to not exist in this game. Surf totally does. It's a TM now because it was a good move.
Yeah, I mean they kept Surf and Fly, and they're perfectly reasonable moves, which I think is cool. Like they're perfectly fine to have. I just don't want to be forced to have them, and it meant that my Pokemon were much more interesting. Mimikyu is amazing, by the way.
Mimikyu is a hilarious. There are a lot of funny Pokemon.
Although evidently Mimikyu is way creepier in the show than in the game.
Well, its Pokédex entries in the game are also really creepy.
It's true.
It's a ghost that wants to select Pikachu because it knows people like Pikachu.
Yeah.
It wants people to like it, and therefore it resents Pikachu greatly.
Yes. That was the bit in the show where Mimikyu is basically like a Pikachu-obsessed serial killer.
Well, did you pay attention to the wall in that room you find it in?
I did do that.
Wait, what happens?
Mimikyu has like a creepy Pikachu shrine.
In game.
So is there like only one Mimikyu in the game that you catch? Or is there just like a Mimikyu shrine?
The concept in this game that is not really a spoiler is that they have, other than, the whole gym thing, we're doing the island challenge, which involves various trials, which involve defeating a totem Pokemon. One of them is Mimikyu, and it totally has this really, really creepy shrine to Pikachu.
That's hilarious.
Pika Pika. I've decided that basically if I'm ever going to get anywhere in this game, I need to, seriously play it in some place other than bed. Because, I've fallen asleep playing the game and hit my head with the 3DS. Because, I find Pokemon games really relaxing.
Yeah, I've done this.
They're just, so chill, and the music and the scenery, and
this one especially, because you're on, a tropical island, and it's really nice.
A whole bunch of, we sort of talked about it before, I think, but mechanically, there's, a whole bunch of quality of life changes. You can see the effectiveness of your moves after you have fought a Pokemon once.
Oh, yeah. So I'm not constantly looking up, what kind is this? And what's good against that? Because unlike some people, I do not have the type chart memorized.
I
do have the type chart memorized, but I don't have the types of every Pokemon memorized.
So I am curious because I had this happen to me. Is grass weak to bird?
Yes.
Fine, yes.
Yes.
Huh.
It's kind of horrible, and that's why those damn woodpeckers are such a killer with my Rowlet.
With the amazing Dapper Owl.
Yeah. I wasn't sold on Rowlet, and especially when I had only seen its middle form, but its final form is amazing.
Yes.
JK Rowlet?
Yeah. It has a horrible middle form. It has the most awkward...
Wait, horrible?
Yeah.
It's amazing, though.
Dartrix?
Yeah.
No. It's it's... God, I don't even know how to say it. It's basically, it's that Pokemon Z Cavaricci phase, which is only going to make sense if you're my age.
Sorry, Bel.
Yeah, no, he's going through an awkward middle phase. Someday he'll be a beautiful butterfly, but not right now. Right now, he has a weird comb over. But soon, he's going to be Batman. He's going to be Green Owl Batman.
I love the little woodpecker. I mean, other than it kicking the crap out of me.
Oh, no, I like it now that I have one. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's horrible. Fighting it as Rowlet is horrible.
But its final form is amazing.
It's just a giant toucan.
Yeah.
That's not the light.
I was like, oh, what an adorable little woodpecker. Oh, you're like a...
angry toucan.
You're like a bigger, angrier woodpecker. Oh no, you're a giant, angry toucan. That's amazing. Your signature ability is Beak Cannon.
Beak Cannon?
So...
Beak Blast or something.
Yeah, Beak Blast. So it's Pikipek is the little woodpecker, and then Trumbeak, and then Toucanon.
So... I do have to say, I am definitely leveling up a Pikipek, and its name is Pearl, because that model looks exactly
Oh my god, I'm glad you said that, because I immediately thought of Pearl.
It just, everything about the shape of that head looks like Pearl's head, which is hilarious to me.
I want to dig into it some more. Just because, just because I'm finding it a much harder game means I kind of want to, actually learn how to play Pokemon this time. Yeah, because, always...
is a little weird in, two places. One is right after the start. In particular, that stupid Smeargle is way harder than it should be.
Smeargle's a dick.
Then again is right when you get to the third island out of 4. Difficulty goes up a little bit again. Other than those, I'm not finding it that much harder than normal.
It feels like I'm just having a hard time getting started. In the other 2 modern 3DS Pokemon games, it felt like I could build a team that I liked right away. And I feel like right now I have a bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily like and will happily jettison as soon as I find something cool. Although I totally want to level up the ferret Pokemon so I can have a Gumshoes.
That ferret Pokemon looks way too much like a certain presidential elect.
Yeah, I know.
Creeps me out.
But the detective Pokemon...
By the way, I hope you I hope you like that giant pelican, because, man, you're going to see a lot of that pelican.
I actually do like
Wingull?
Wingull and
Pelipper. Yeah,
they don't
stop showing up.
Yeah.
I kind of hate Wingull. I got so tired of Wingull in the last game.
I feel like Rowlet is the coolest looking Pokemon, but he also seems to be not great to start with, because there are a lot of flying.
Yeah. In addition, there is no rock-type gym to run over with your grass-type starter this time. So it's also a bit of a factor.
It takes a bit to deal with any rocks. Though, on the topic of rocks, I do like Owl and Dugtrio, the boy band. It's amazing.
Oh my god. So the best thing that I've seen so far...
Yeah.
The best thing that I've seen is somebody that took that and then put the Prince Adam from the What's Going On video on the top one.
I had also somehow not actually seen Delibird before this game, and I can't decide if that bird is Santa Claus or if it's going to rob a bank.
Well, it gives you presents. All it does. It gives you presents.
Wow.
Sometimes these presents hurt you. Sometimes they give you health. This is why you never use it in battle. But, it's thematic.
Sure. So I guess it's Santa Claus and not a bank robber.
It's not a bank robber.
Actually, it's probably Krampus.
That's probably closer.
Because Krampus sometimes hurts you.
There are a lot more adorable Pokemon versus angry, vicious ones in this game, which I like.
I mean, they still get angry and vicious when you level them up.
Not all of them.
Some of them do.
I haven't encountered my favorite yet, and I can't remember the name of it, but the land shark Pokemon.
A Garchomp?
Yeah.
That's totally in the game.
Okay, good.
It'll be a while.
I like my angry little land shark.
So, how do these statistics, these affection, hunger, whatnot, impact the Pokemon?
One's in Pokemon Refresh.
Yeah.
When you get to 2 affection, you earn more XP. Then as you go higher, they start being able to do other things, like just dodge moves on a whim or shake off status effects because they like you so much.
Oh, okay. So you want to get up to level 5 affection as quickly as possible?
Don't worry too much about it until you unlock the what it's called. Once you get the ability to fly, you can fly to the Islands of Terrible Puns and start earning rainbow beans. I don't remember what it's actually called, fortunately.
They're the Islands of Terrible Pun, with a Pokepelago.
So does this become a thing where it's I know EVs permanently impacted the stat gain of a Pokemon?
No, it doesn't actually impact stat gain in any way.
Okay, that's good to know.
Only effect it has on Pokemon stats in any way is that Eevee will only evolve to Sylveon if you have at least 2 affection. That's it, really.
So wait, Eevee will only what?
Eevee will only evolve to Sylveon. It's fairy type evolution if it has at least 2 affection.
Okay.
Which is really not that hard to get to.
I think I already have 2 affection on Rowlet, and I've barely played.
My Rowlet is already at 3 affection, but I spend a lot of time petting and giving them food.
Is there
Pokepelago, you can get better beans that give more affection.
Is there any rhyme or reason as to what kind of food you should be feeding them? Because, like, do some of them like specific colored foods, or...
Beats me.
Yay, Pokemon. It's got such clear systems.
Funny you should mention that. One of the things it's always had for competitive players is the ability for an NPC to check, like, basically the genes of your Pokemon. Specifically, its stat values that it starts with that can't be changed.
The IVs.
The IVs. This time around, there is no NPC that does that. But after you hatch 20 eggs, an NPC will just unlock the ability for your computer to do it, and you can just see them straight up.
Oh, that's cool. So
Hatch
no
20
more awkward trying
Pokemon
to
with
dissect.
Potential.
Yeah, exactly. Like
this, and this. They're
right.
okay. Trying to figure out what that means in terms of actual values.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome, though.
Also, hatching 20 eggs does not take a very long time.
Oh, it does.
Well, I've heard that like this game is way easier to hatch eggs in, since you can run your Taurus in like circles in a fence inside of the farm area where you've got your Pokemon breeding anyway.
I suspect part of this is, ditching the grid entirely. It means that their step counter is faster than what used to be, like to go from grid square to grid square.
Right.
Yes, hatching eggs is very, very fast. And even producing them is faster than it used to be.
Yeah, I was reading a guy that said basically like it was a 2 to 4 minute thing of running in circles instead of like in X and Y. I used to roller skate in circles around the electric tower, and I would jam a nickel underneath my thumb pad so that it would keep it going in a direction, and just like set it there and let it run around until it finally hatched.
Yeah, I think it takes me about a minute per egg. I was trying very hard to hatch a female Salandit because that takes freaking ever.
A female what?
There's a new salamander Pokemon called Salandit that only evolves if it's female.
Huh?
It's weird like that. It's also mostly not female, so it took me a while to get one that I could actually use.
Well, since we seem to be winding down on Pokemon Sun and Moon, Grace, tell me about your Justice Monsters 5 addiction.
Look, this is a real thing. So last week, while we were talking about Final Fantasy XV, and I was like, I wandered into a diner and I discovered that there was pinball, and I played about an hour and a half's worth of pinball before actually going back and playing the game. And it turns out in the last week, because Ash was kind enough to tell me that this was a thing I could get for my cell phone, I've played almost no Final Fantasy XV, but I have played a lot of Justice Monsters 5. And it's, it's been a stressful week. It's right before the holidays and semester's ending and all of that good stuff. And having just a nice little distraction on my phone has been amazing. But it's a bit more involved on the phone app than it is in game. Sadly, you can't, earn items in game by playing the phone app, which would be kind of awesome. But it's pinball. It's weird pachinko pinball with Final Fantasy monsters, and they're pinballs, and also you hit them with pinballs.
And they have special attacks.
And it just is sort of amazing. And there's there's a slot machine function where, like many pinball tables, you hit enough things and you get roll in the slot machine, and sometimes a Tumberry comes and goes doink and murders everything for you, and it's amazing. And even after playing it for a solid week, I still laugh every time that happens. I wish I could put my finger on exactly why I am enjoying the hell out of it so much, but partially I kind of don't care, and I'm just gonna go with it. The game has sort of a if you've ever played Puzzle and Dragons, like the overarching game systems will be very familiar. like many mobile games, you have a certain amount of energy to spend on playing pinball games, and you can collect monsters and trade out different monsters with different elements on your team and level them up and evolve them and all of that good stuff that you would expect from a sort of RPG-ish game that's also pinball. So yeah, no, like I've been enjoying it. I've played through, I think there's 10 like quest levels with 10 tables each. And I've played through all of those on normal mode, and I'm kind of working my way through on hard mode. And there's also, daily events that give different rewards and temporary events with other extra bonus XP or whatever things. And I mean, you could spend real money on it. I have not, but it's been enjoyable enough that it's the kind of game I would spend a couple bucks on. Unfortunately, it does the monetization thing where like you get whatever golden eggs or whatever they are, and I think it costs 250 of them will give you 11 random monsters, which is pretty reasonable. I mean, I've managed to save up enough in game to get 3 rounds, maybe. Yeah, 3 rounds of 11 monsters. So, just from regular play. But the cost of that, if you paid in real money, was more than $20, which seemed pretty excessive. Like to buy that many golden eggs, whatever. So like, I'm all about chipping in a couple bucks for games when it lets me unlock something permanently or make my life easier for a little bit. But $20 for 10 monsters is a bit much. So I have not.
I think like the perfect example of a game that has a fair payment thing is like Alpha Bears, and I don't remember how much that was, but like you pay it once and then from that point on you get something forever.
I think it was like $5, and if you pitched in $5, then you didn't have to worry about energy anymore or something, or your energy gains were faster, or whatever.
Right.
Like, it was a reasonable amount of money and a pretty decent permanent unlock kind of thing, and like I'm all about doing that for games if I'm actually playing them enough to enjoy them.
I kind of felt like I feel like it's a continual problem with the mobile games that Square drops is I would happily spend some money on them, except that the only options for me spending money are outrageous, so I never spend any money on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, if your prices were more reasonable, it's like, by the time... So it's like, I see the prices, so I'm like, no, I don't know enough about this game to know if that's worth it. And by the time I know it's worth it, I'm far enough into the game to know that it isn't worth it. And it's just never...
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the shop now, and in fact, to buy 250 golden orbs, which is enough to get like a spin of 11 monsters on the random wheel, it's $25 for 200 orbs. So then that's not even enough. I mean, you can spend them 25 at a time instead of in bulk, but then you get less monsters. So
I remember having the same
excessive for anything in a mobile game.
I remember having the same thought process with Final Fantasy Record Keeper. Like, none of the options to buy anything in there really seemed like it was worthwhile.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, the questionable monetization thing aside, like, the game is super fun, like, surprisingly really super fun. And I mean, I like Puzzle and Dragons, but also it's still a match 3 game, and there's only so much excitement you can get out of that. And this is pinball, and it's very action oriented, and also cute Final Fantasy monsters. And I was very happy that I got some interesting monsters from my freebie rolls.
So, having not actually installed this, does it use some kind of an account-based system, like to track your progress, or is it just some ID installed on the phone?
So you have an ID installed on the phone, but you can, if you want to swap devices, it does have some sort of account-based system. I haven't messed with that, but there is a way to transfer to different devices.
Okay, yeah, because like there's been a couple games that I played, and one of them was, God, what is the cat game?
Neko Atsume.
Yeah. And it is just based on an ID that's unique to the install of that system. And I had to wipe my phone, and I lost every bit of progress on that game.
Oh, no, this definitely has a way to transfer your account. Like I said, I haven't messed with it, but it does exist.
It was sad times when I realized that. And I think Dragon Coins had the same problem, whereas like most of the Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy Record Keeper, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius or whatever, they used my Google account.
So
Funny part is even Final Fantasy V is a cloud save on mobile devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand how this game works, because I'm playing it in the Final Fantasy XV. And, like, when you say pinball, I'm thinking of something very specific, and this isn't really that.
Well,
No,
it's like
it's
a cross
not quite,
between,
but-
it's like somewhat pinball, somewhat pachinko, and somewhat other stuff.
Yeah.
I guess what is pachinko is a thing I should probably
Vertical
research.
pinball.
That's not really true.
Well, I mean, like, it's kind of like a Plinko machine.
You were saying Plinko on The Price is Right.
Yes.
That's basically it.
You throw the ball up, and then it falls down, and based on what it hits, you score points.
Oh, okay.
But it looks like a vertical pinball machine of sorts.
Yeah, except there's no paddles that you're using to, like, whack the ball back up.
Right. Once you launch
Right.
it, that's what you got.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that is the piece that this game is like once you've launched the ball, then you just wait for it to come back down. But I had trouble doing this in Final Fantasy 15, but on the phone, and I know that you can, but didn't make it work very well on the phone app. There's various ways of like putting spin on the ball and getting it to go where you want instead of just waiting for it to get to the right part of the curve before you launch it. The ball basically rolls back and forth across the bottom of the screen in a little like cup, and depending on the angle, that's where it ends up going. But you can definitely like mess with that and get a better trajectory. And yeah, like the different monsters have different abilities, and like some of them will do wall climbs, and some of them will explode when they hit things, some of them will pierce. So there's enough variety that it makes it entertaining for me. It's not exactly like the most amazing game in the universe, but it is a very nice diversion, and I like pinball stuff. Plus now I have an Ultros, and he will come and attack everything on the board with angry tentacles. Because I mean, that's the other piece of it that I don't think you get in the in Final Fantasy XV version, which is collecting monsters, which
As far as I
is
can tell, you
always a
seem
fun
to just
thing
have
to do.
the starting four, and that's basically it in game.
Yeah, and so here's the other piece that I would pretty much recommend that anyone who is even marginally curious download the app and play through the tutorial, because even though this doesn't really carry into the rest of the game, the tutorial is kind of amazing, and it has like little like speeches by the various main monsters, and it's very funny. I enjoyed it.
It's super charming.
Yeah.
I've also played through it. It's like, it feels like the kind of video game you would find in a diner in a Final Fantasy game.
Yep.
It's like it perfectly captures the kind of weird thing you'd expect to experience, and now I can play it on my cell phone.
Like, if I have one major disappointment in this game, it's that, like, that fun little, like, comic book conversation thing pretty much ends after the tutorial. And then it's just, pinball RPG thing, which is still super fun, but it does miss that extra bit of character.
Okay, so I think that's wound down. So I have a weird offshoot conversation. Actually, it's an offshoot of nothing. The Tam's going to give me shit about. I don't like Twitch. I've never liked Twitch. And it's not out of some weird hipster rebellion that I don't want to use the popular service. It's just there's things about it that I don't like. Primarily, it's the inability to have a conversation with somebody while I stream. And it's not just something that I've noticed. And like people, so when I stream, I don't stream that often. When I stream, the people that tend to be in my stream are people I know, like actual friends of mine. Like Ammo, for example, she likes to pop in my stream and chit chat with me while I'm playing a game. And it's painful to try and have a conversation that way. Mostly because like there's this huge lag between what you're actually doing and when the person on the other end actually sees what you just did. And usually it starts out about 30 seconds. And then as the stream goes on, it can be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And Twitch is really bad about that. So I've kept looking for something other than Twitch. And the problem is like Twitch is the one that's relevant. Twitch is the one that everyone uses.
So, I mean, the problem is that you're trying to use Twitch for something very different than what it's really being used for. Like, in the Twitch streams I follow, it's the conversation that is ongoing is largely supposed to be occurring between members of the chat. And then, like, the person who is playing the game will, like, keep an eye on it and then throw their, like, 2 cents in. And then the conversation will veer based on that. But you need to have a critical mass of people chatting in Twitch chat to get that started. And then you get too many people in Twitch chat and it becomes unfollowable.
Twitch chat.
It becomes Twitch chat, which is like what Twitch chat during a Riot Games thing is.
Well, and like honestly, Twitch chat is usually horrible. Like the actual conversation happening in Twitch chat is usually horrible.
It depends on the stream that I'm watching.
Yeah.
This is the time I'd like to shout out Loading Ready Run. They stream like every single day of the week, and it's a pretty good community. Like, check them out. They've got a pretty cool channel going on over there.
So yeah, like, I mean, obviously what I want out of streaming is vastly different than what most people want out of streaming. So, I don't know, like, I tried Hitbox, and Hitbox had lots of issues. Mostly, I think Hitbox had issues because, I don't know, like, I don't think it was as high end of a service as, Twitch. So there were issues.
Leading competitor.
What?
We tried Twitch's leading competitor.
What is Twitch's leading competitor?
YouTube.
Oh, no. YouTube's got its own issues too. And YouTube would be totally viable, but there's the whole problem of channel names and usernames. So when you're using a YouTube video or like a YouTube stream, you show up as your channel name. So like my channel name is Tales the Aggronaut, which looks really weird when you're having a conversation in chat as Tales the Aggronaut. And that may be just like extraneous, but like it bothers me. I'm weird. I realize I'm weird. So yeah, so Hitbox was like not that great. And then a lot of people that I knew started switching over to Beam. And Beam is a weird case because it at some point got bought out by Microsoft. And it is like the official streaming service of Xbox. And it is integrated in a way into Xboxes so that you can have like OBS style interfaces through the Xbox and like stream straight from your console and have like a computer-like experience. So I don't know, like I played with it like this week quite a bit, and I have to say I kind of like it, and it does some really weird things in that it kind of gamifies streaming, which sounds horrible, I know, but like as you're watching streams, you earn this currency called Sparks, and then you spend that currency on streamers and or unlocking features of the streaming service.
I was about to say,
Out of curiosity,
how
you know if
long
they
has
used this name before they were bought by Microsoft?
No, I never used it before it was bought from Microsoft.
I was also going to say Twitch has also done that. And Twitch has the bits, which is what you can use to donate to the streamers that you're watching, and those streamers get real world money, and you can use bits for various things, and you earn them by watching advertisements.
See, you don't actually earn them from watching advertisements. You like earn them from watching the channel, which is weird. Like I expected it to be you earn it from watching advertisements. That makes sense. But in any case, like through this thing, you can unlock the other thing that I want in a streaming service, which is the ability to have stream teams, which is not something you can ever have in Twitch unless you become a partner. Largely, I've just been shocked at how cool the community is. Like that first night, I had like 25 people in the channel, and that's more than I've ever had on Twitch.
Now, does Beam also have like a service that you can watch it on your Xbox One?
Yes,
Okay.
it has Xbox One, it has mobile, it has a bunch of other stuff. So this is the thing that Microsoft is pushing, and it seems to be, I don't know, like it seems to highlight channels fairly well, and it has some kind of an algorithm based on, like it seems to think like, oh, you've watched this game stream before, you might like this person who is also streaming this game. So it has kind of an intelligence in the suggestions of who you should be watching. I mean, it will never gain the critical mass that Twitch has, but I don't know, like I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with the folks that are actually watching it. They seem to be really big on policing chat, and like the various streams are divided up by different rating groups.
Like, what do you mean by policing chat?
So like they have family friendly and teen, and like PG-13 and adult.
Okay.
And each one of those has a rule set.
And so they have some AI that's
they have AI monitoring, I think, and they have mods that roam around freely between things, checking on what's going on channels.
They have actual like on-staff mods for the
I think so. Like that's what I understand it as.
Interesting. Like Twitch allows you to select people to be moderators of your chat, which basically gives them some admin privileges for purposes of dealing with chat users. But I don't think they like actively contribute mods to that.
I think there's like a system of basically like flagging, and then when a flag is out, like someone comes in to check on it.
I do know that Twitch has been doing some interesting things with their partnership with Amazon. Twitch Prime I started messing around with my Twitch Prime subscription, which is pretty cool.
So what does that entail? Because, I mean, I have this because I have Prime, and I have no idea because I don't use Twitch very often.
So you can... I don't know how you get, like, the in-game loot. What I do know is that you get every 30 days a free $5 subscription.
Yeah.
Which means if there's anyone who you like who is a Twitch streamer, you can go subscribe to their channel and they will be monetarily compensated for that. And it doesn't cost you anything other than your continued use of the Prime service.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I like that a lot. I've been using it recently because I've got a couple of streamers. It's like, oh, I don't have any money because I'm broke at the moment, but I still have my Prime membership running and I can support them.
Yes.
It's weird though, like I have never really been one to watch Twitch at all. like I will watch corporate streams that are information based. So like I regularly watch like the Tryon World stream because they announce stuff on it, or Guild Wars 2 has one that happens a lot. But like I don't end up watching individual streamers.
I mean, I basically watch, like you said, sort of informational things from companies, and then also my friends when they happen to be streaming.
Yeah, like it's different. It's different if like there's somebody I know streaming. That's interesting to me. But it's always felt like there's a division between the streamer and the audience in Twitch, partially because of the weird chat delay and making it impossible to actually hold a conversation. But I like Beam has a weirder community. Like people actually regularly communicate with people on the stream, and they like there's this weird culture over there of doing stream raids. Have you heard of those?
Yes.
Okay,
like
so
where you raid somebody else's stream with a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, like apparently that's a constant thing on Beam, and it's encouraged.
I mean, it's not always been a very affirmative like thing. So I'm curious how they are doing it such that it's encouraged, because it can be kind of very disruptive to communities.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it is very disruptive if it's done negatively. Like, suddenly you have 100 people spamming the chat with nonsense.
I don't know, I've heard they take harassment extremely seriously, like to the point of banning and deleting accounts. What it kind of reminds me is it feels like Beam is trying to do what MZ tried to do with Reddit.
You aren't really selling me on Beam with that.
Yeah, seriously.
What was that? IMZY?
IMZY.
Okay. Like, I've heard of it.
It's basically heavily moderated Reddit.
Sure, and I have drastically reduced my Reddit usage, but it doesn't necessarily mean I want a new Reddit to start going to. I am very interested in the concept of using these streaming services when they are owned and operated by game companies who are able to then develop features that can hook into games. Like, I'm curious about how we can start seeing like Twitch chat integrations into games starting to happen. Because some of the stuff I watched in like the Amazon Games trailer was really interesting sounding. If not necessarily a game I want to play, it would be a game I would want to watch streamed because it sounds hilarious.
Well, I want to say that when that trailer came out, there was something about, God, what is the game that is basically Hunger Games?
Crucible.
Yeah, like that it would have somehow integrated with Twitch chat so
the concept is there are 12 people playing in this game trying to complete an objective, and they can work together or they can betray each other, and then the chat that is watching is like controlling certain elements of the game and can like spawn buffs or debuffs on people.
Well, it's sort of there's a game master who is interacting with the stream, and the stream can suggest things and vote for things and so on to be implemented by the game master.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's actually another thing that's going on with Beam is they have an API for doing interactive streams.
Yeah, and so that's where I was going, is like, I'm curious if Beam is going to start having like Xbox developed games that integrate deeply into Beam.
Apparently they already do, because like there's a flag you can put on the stream browser to say I only want to see interactive streams, so that it lets me do something to affect the gameplay.
Interesting.
So they basically built Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Oh, speaking of Twitch Plays Pokemon, Ashgar, have you heard of Salty Bet?
I have heard of Salty Bet.
I figured you might have. Is this something you've experienced yet?
No, it's not. It's not really something I have interested in.
It sounds hilarious. So, apparently, Mugen is... Can you describe what Mugen is?
Mugen is a fighting game engine people have made a whole bunch of characters and imported a whole bunch of characters from other fighting games and thrown every single idea you could possibly think of at the wall and turned it into a fighting game character.
Okay, and Salty Bet is taking all of those Mugen characters and having AIs control them and having them battle each other on Twitch. And in each match you are playing, you are able to bet currency, like internet currency, that you can pick up in the Salty Bet game. And so you're sitting there in Twitch, like, making these wagers on these digital fighters that are AI controlled, and, like, trash talking in Twitch chat over them. Which...
Okay, so I just did a little bit of reading, and apparently the interactive mode allows you to write Node.js, Java, or Python code that interacts with the stream.
Oh, okay.
That then kicks off something on your end.
Huh. But yeah, like, this is the stuff that I think of, like, when I'm looking at trying to get things where it's a Twitch stream and it's entertainment, but it is real. Like, Twitch has some opportunities for some really interesting entertainment options, and all streaming products in general. And Salty Bet just sounds hilarious to me.
Been going for quite some time now, actually.
Yeah.
I guess that's the weird thing with me in streaming, is I am not interested in streaming that is essentially me being a passive participant. And I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, just being a watcher. Like, I want to interact with these people. I want to, I want it to work like everything else in my that I do, which is essentially like, having conversations and getting to know people. And
well, I mean, again, for a lot of things that happens in the streams, like, it does, there is the delay, but you're getting to know the other people who are watching the stream as well. Like, you're seeing the consistent names popping up in chat, and Twitch is actually really interesting. Like, at least when I'm watching, there's maybe like anywhere from 200 to 800 people in the chat, which sounds like a lot, but given the size of our other social media networks, that's actually pretty small and manageable. So it's actually a good way to find and form communities again, when I feel like a lot of the massive social networks have sort of prevented that community building exercise.
Yeah, it's weird how, like, social media can be more isolating than it can be actually bringing people together. Anyway, I don't even know what I was trying to say. I just, like, right now I'm actually enjoying Beam in a way that I've never enjoyed Twitch, and definitely in a way that I didn't enjoy Hitbox.
I just remember we tried Hitbox for Extra Life that one year, and it wasn't that bad.
It was okay, but it was... The thing is it worked okay-ish, but a lot of people seem to have problems with, like, the stream breaking up and things like that.
I feel like my primary interaction with streaming is watching GDQ twice a year.
Yeah.
I think it's me watching Worlds.
So if you, like, again, I do a lot of stream watching with, like, the Loading Ready Run crew. They are doing some new stuff, like, they're trying to really get more into the creative side of things. So, like, tonight they actually had an episode of Loading Ready Live, which is sort of like a Saturday Night Live, but broadcast through Twitch, and it's interactive a little bit because it's still Twitch. There's cool stuff happening. I think theirs is definitely a channel worth checking out sometimes. I mostly watch Loading Ready Live and Watch and Play, which is two of their streamers, like, are going through the Jim Sterling style dregs of Steam.
Oh, gotta take that for the good, I guess.
Okay, so that's a little offshoot conversation about Steam. Like, I realized this year was the year that I stopped actually going to Steam to look at anything. Like, I go to Steam when I want to buy something that I already know is there, that it's already out. And I used to spend a lot of time just every couple days go out there and just see what was new and did anything look interesting. But I don't do that anymore. Like, there's too much out there.
I don't think I've ever...
There's a lot of stuff on Steam. because they basically said, well, I guess we don't need standards. And the upside of this is we get games like Stardew Valley, which would not have made Steam before.
Yeah.
The downside of this is we also get a whole bunch of awful stuff.
But like the last couple Steam sales, I didn't really even purchase anything other than, like, I think I picked up Witness because I knew we were going to be playing Witness during one of the sales. But like, I used to go out there all the friggin' time just to see what stuff's new. Is there anything interesting coming out? And I've just stopped because there's too much stuff.
Flip side is Tyranny came out and nobody noticed.
Look, that's entirely their fault for not really doing anything to announce it ahead of time.
What is Tyranny?
Exactly.
Tyranny is an Obsidian-made, Paradox-published RPG on the same engine as Pillars of Eternity about what if the evil overlord won. You play as, I would say, an enforcer of sorts, but that's not strictly true. But it's actually quite interesting, and you should give it a try.
I've heard
like the Thursday after Election Day, and got no marketing whatsoever.
Yeah. I've heard that it is the Shadowrun Dragonfall to Pillars of Eternity's Shadowrun Returns.
That's not what I've heard about it, and from what I've played, it is a different style of game. While it's still built on the same sort of combat system, it places a lot more emphasis on talking, which for an Obsidian game is probably a good thing.
But it does make me wonder, like, okay, so Tyranny came out, got next to no press, at least leading up to the announcement of it launching, and even then, I barely saw anything.
It has had, like, no marketing at all.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder, like, how many decent games are just getting lost in the mix of all this other stuff?
Well, probably quite a few. I mean, I guess if someone notices, they can mention them, like, Tyranny is actually pretty good and maybe you should try it. But hard to say. Like, is having more eyes on Tyranny worth the loss of Stardew Valley?
I don't know. Like,
I don't think anything is worth the loss of Stardew Valley.
Well, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of games that I picked up that I enjoyed that I only knew about because I was browsing Steam. Like, Ares.
So, I feel like the Discovery Queue does a decent job of not showing you games that are the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've put some stuff on my wish list from the Discovery Queue, and it is essentially the only way in which I interact with things that Steam shows me.
Yeah, same.
But it's also like, I don't know, and this is sort of related to another conversation I was having earlier today, but I'm kind of well beyond feeling like I'm missing out because I miss some obscure game that didn't get enough press on Steam. Like, if it's really that good, I'll hear about it later from somebody else and play it then. And if I don't play it, like, there's a lot of games I can play. I've been through nearly a decade where I considered it incredibly important to play every relevant or interesting or whatever game. And what it did is super burn me out on trying to play everything, and I just don't anymore. I'll recommend stuff that I like, but, like, I mean, it burned me out on the indie scene super hard.
The big problem I have with the Discovery Queue is, like, I'm constantly getting things that show up in it that all it says is because it's popular. Like, it doesn't actually relate back to anything that I either own or have, favorited or any of that stuff. It's just because it's popular.
I feel like you haven't done it in a few days. Basically, all it does is show you Steam's top sellers.
Yeah.
I haven't done it since the last holiday event that rewarded you for something for doing the queue. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, it'll show you the popular stuff first because it knows that popular stuff is popular. I don't know. I have a hard time faulting it for that decision. Although while we've been talking, I'm seeing Shadow Tactics: Blades of the Shogun.
Okay, I was going to say, are you seeing Shadow Tactics? Because this looks
that was a game that got lost in the shuffle.
A hardcore tactical stealth game set in Japan around the Edo period. Like, okay.
I'm pretty sure I linked that to you.
I think you might have.
Because, like, I happened to see it mentioned somewhere, and I'm like, this is a game that Tam would probably really like.
That looks like a game you would probably like.
Yeah, I mean, put it on my wish list so I remember it for later. I mean, that's what I use my wish list on Steam for, is games that pique my interest and I decide to wait until I see something to say. to see something potentially compelling about it. And so I guess every so often I'll go and cull my wish list, be like, oh, okay, I'm not actually that interested in this.
Yeah, I've had to do that a few times.
Honestly, the stores that I end up looking at the most are PSN and recently the Xbox store, just to see if there's anything interesting that I haven't played that I might want to, that's super cheap on sale.
I don't think I've ever browsed those other than during sales.
I will say the Microsoft store is significantly worse than PSN store, like the website interface.
That's
because
not a good, but it's not a high bar.
No, it's not a high bar, but the problem is like that interface has everything from the Surface Pro to the, consumer keyboard that they're making to Xbox games. So when you do a search, you're getting just a bunch of just gibberish back. Like I couldn't find the equivalent of the PSN store that's just, this is the PSN store. I'm only interested in Xbox One games, or I'm only interested in 360 games.
Yeah, I think that picking up games that I would otherwise not hear about in any other capacity is what I get from Steam, and I think I buy fewer console games for that reason. Like, I buy very, very few games on my consoles. They either have to... Basically, I have to prefer to play them on the console and know that they exist, which limits it pretty significantly. And the lack of things you might be interested based on games you've played in, say, PSN.
Okay, so another weird offshoot of this. I have finally realized why Halo never clicks with me.
Oh?
Why's that?
Like, I've not tried to play multiplayer, and the multiplayer may be just phenomenal, but the single-player storyline never clicks with me because I get super attached to specific weapons.
Yep.
And that game wants you to just pick up whatever random crap has ammo and continue on, and that feels not good to me.
It feels super awful to me. Super ultra awful.
Like, I had a really cool gun, and I used it for 5 minutes and ran out of ammo, and now I have to, run around with these horrible guns for a while until I find another super awesome gun.
Yep.
And then I'll get another 5 minutes of joy.
Light possible.
What?
I said, well, I realize you are phrasing this sort of in the worst light possible. I don't necessarily see it as a negative always, that you have to make do with what you find.
Yep. So I like when I have to make do with what I find in subsets of the game. When the entire game is, you don't get to keep anything that you like for more than 30 seconds to a minute, maybe a couple of minutes if there aren't very many enemies around, and I'm constantly having to switch weapons in combat, I am annoyed instantly.
Kill people with some trash you found on the ground. Yeah,
But isn't that what Half-Life 2 is about? I mean, wait.
I didn't really like Half-Life 2.
I felt like...
I was more referring to grab the gun.
I felt like with Half-Life 2, I mean, yes, but in Half-Life games, I can actually keep the weapon that I like.
It's true. They do let you keep the weapon that you like.
Like, I'm okay with switching weapons. Like, oh, I ran out of shotgun ammo. Okay, I will put away my shotgun and I will now use this other weapon until I find more shotgun ammo. Then by God, I'm going to go right back to the shotgun.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's just...
You're not going to see shotgun ammo for another hour.
Right. I mean, and maybe that's just like an esoteric point, because there's not that much difference between I have to throw away my shotgun and pick something else up, and then when I find another shotgun, I have ammo again. It's just the fact that, like, I may never see a shotgun. I may not have walked across the right area to see that shotgun laying up against that bulkhead. I don't know. Like, it feels bad. Like, if I could play that game with the default rifle, I would be super...
Rifle?
Like the assault rifle that you start off with. Like, if I could play with that, I would be super happy the entire game. Like, that's the only weapon I really want to use.
It makes me think of, like, imagine if you had to play Borderlands, but you never got to settle on a weapon of choice, and how unpleasant that experience would be, and that feels like Halo to me.
I mean...
They're not the same type of game.
I was gonna say...
Yeah, I like one and don't like the other.
Yeah, that's
But
That's perfectly
the gun
valid.
set is also entirely different. Like the thing about Borderlands is we've got 4 million guns or 4 quadrillion guns in this game, and in Halo you've got like
8.
maybe a dozen.
Let's be totally fair. Borderlands has a similarly small number of actually different guns with highly variable details.
And honestly, like, part of it too is like, I think I just don't like Covenant weapons.
Yeah, that would cause you to not like most parts of, I think, Halo 2 at least.
Probably. I mean, I've been playing Halo 5. Now that I have an Xbox One, it came with Halo 5. And there's at least 24 weapons that I've encountered so far. And like, and it's okay. It's just I would be significantly happier in that game if I could pick a weapon that I actually like and just keep using it.
Yeah, I've tried to get into Halo like in every iteration since 3, and I've had the same problem with it.
And it's like, for years, I haven't been able to put my finger on what it was about the game that I just didn't like as much as other games. Which I realize saying that I don't like Halo is as much blasphemy as saying I don't like Metal Gear Solid.
Not everyone has to like everything.
But, yeah, like, and the thing is like, I can't bash the game at all. Like, it's a really well put together game, and it's interesting. It's just this one thing feels like an obstacle to keep me from really wanting to, I don't know, get into it. But, like, it's also, I think to a lot of people, this is a core mechanic of what makes it enjoyable.
I mean,
You've accurately described how I feel about Magic the Gathering.
I don't actually think Halo has a very good single-player campaign, but I do think its multiplayer is fantastic. Its single-player is nonsense. Like,
are you saying that after game 3-ish, it has a plot that, you know, makes Metal Gear look sensible?
I actually don't know what the plot... I don't actually know that I ever played 4. 3 ends with Master Chief and Cortana leaving the... And I thought that was supposed to be the end. And, like, they did ODST, which was great. ODST is actually a good single-player campaign. It's just you're playing Firefly, the Halo game.
Okay, that was a lot of jaunts off of topic. Okay, so I hear that Starscream is a thing that I should care about.
Starscream is awesome! So we finally got to Alex 11, which is you fight Starscream, the Transformer. It's named something else, but it's Starscream.
Called Cruise Chaser. But yes, it's a Transformer that resembles Starscream, not a little bit.
And you get, like, it's actually a really interesting fight with a whole bunch of cool mechanics that you have to deal with. And pretty challenging, actually.
It kind of reminds me to some extent of the first really fun few phases of Coil 9.
Yeah.
Like, before it becomes...
Complete and utter nonsense?
Yeah. It, like, stops short of becoming complete and utter nonsense, with you having to, like, watch your buffs and some such. But there's a whole bunch of other, like, neat interlocking mechanics that it slowly scales up, culminating with an active time event.
That is just nonsense.
It's totally nonsense, but it's really funny.
It's funny, yes.
You have to, like... It decides partway through the fight that, whatever, it's tired of fighting you, it's going to blow up the platform that you're fighting on and just fly away because it's a jet.
So you jump on the back of it.
So you have to jump on its back.
And then while you're on its back, you get a sort of QTE type thing.
Yes.
So, you know, you can jump back off and land on the new platform.
Is it? Yeah, okay. And it has, like, really cool music during this phase, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, this
Okay.
is Final Fantasy XIV, so...
Exactly.
Yes?
Right. Well, no, like, I've seen a video of people doing that part of the phase because they were just recording the music. I need to log into Final Fantasy XIV. I am sure I have something awesome waiting in my mailbox because my subscription renewed. And since I renew the maximum subscription length at a time, it always means that I basically get presents every time it re-ups.
You probably have Zidane outfit, so it depends on how you feel about F9.
I don't know.
Like a monkey boy.
Well, I mean, being a monkey boy would be far more adorable as a Lalafell than pretty much anything else.
That's probably true. You don't get a tail, though.
So do I just have a hole in my butt?
No.
feel like that is definitely a costume that was designed for, the
Small.
cats.
Yes. It's like Wallifo are about the right size, and cats have all the right limbs. So it looks really odd on basically everyone.
Good to know. So what are the requirements for Alex? Like item level?
230, I think, to start.
Yeah, 230 to get in.
I don't know if I'm at 230.
I'm so far behind. I have a lot of catching up to do.
One of the
Dungeon
things
Gear
that
is 225 this time around.
Yeah, the new dungeons are 225, and as it turns out, Palace of the Dead 55 to 100 or 50 to 100 actually gives you quite a few currency. That's which is the
it's
other
also
thing.
the fast track to a 260 weapon.
Yeah, it's also the fast track to a really sweet weapon.
So can you just start at the 50 to whatever?
If you completed 1 through 50, you can just start straight at 50.
And it still scales you based on...
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so I could continue being a scholar?
Yep.
Good.
It is more serious than 1 through 50.
Much more.
Noticeably more serious. We have been doing it with an actually balanced party, and I feel like we'd have some difficulty if we weren't doing it with a balanced party.
Plenty of people have done it without, though, so
sure,
it's possible.
Yeah. But part of it is I really want to get a group from 50 to 100 without any wipes.
Does that give an achievement or something?
It allows you to do 100 to 200.
Once you're
so 100 and 200 is in now?
Yeah.
Yes.
However, in order to do it, you have to get to floor 100 without any party wipes.
And then if you ever have a party wipe, you have to restart at 50.
Wow.
No, at 100.
Yeah.
Oh, is
Or
it
50.
Oh, is it 50?
Because then you no longer have a party save with no party wipes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
These are basically bonuses. They're remixes of the first 100 floors, complete with, redos of all 10 bosses along the way. I hear this is somewhat difficult.
Yes, I hear it is extremely difficult. It's like the coil of small group stuff, but without the gear grind associated with it to the same extent.
I mean, it has its own version of the gear grind, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So it's New Game Plus of a sort.
Yeah.
Or more so the
basically.
Upside Down Castle.
Sort of.
I wonder if it's always going to be that way, or if a future patch is going to open it up for everyone.
They intended it to be bonus, so probably not anytime soon.
And what do you get from doing this?
The true end game.
Cosmetics. Dyeable cosmetics.
Special earrings, some special other stuff. A screenshot in floor 200, which has a very unique look, and therefore, is specifically for showing off.
Yeah, I think, is it Yoshi P that encourages players to take a screenshot on that floor?
Yes.
And tweet it, and he'll retweet it?
I don't know if he'll retweet it or not, but...
I think that's what I heard, is that he will retweet it. So, okay, big question about 14, because I have not been following the news as good as I should. Realm-based grouping, or not realm-based, but data center-based grouping, how is that going to work?
It already works. The raid finders are... Party Finder, I want to say? No, the raid finder is currently cross-realm. They want to extend the Party Finder to also be cross-realm.
Okay, so it's not going to work like BattleNet grouping.
No.
Okay, the way it was.
I mean, actually, it sort of will, I guess.
Can you have
Party Finder in its current state?
I did not know if I could friend someone on another realm and specifically group with that person. Yeah, that's what I like. The way it was written, I wasn't sure, and I was kind of supplying my own hopes that cross server grouping was going to be a thing, on purpose cross server grouping. Because the irony is almost everyone I know that plays this game may not be on Cactuar, but is definitely on the Aether group, and they're on various servers on the Aether group, which I found weird.
Well, one of the largest servers in Gilgamesh is on Aether, right?
And I believe Leviathan as well. I'm not 100% sure about that one though, but definitely Gilgamesh. Okay, Kodra. Tell us why we should care about the new Star Wars collectible card game.
Oh, I mean, it's a pretty cool thing. It's kind of hard to find right now. Kind of got sold out, but they are. So the game is very fun. I I got to play another game with the starters. Basically, the idea is you have a number of heroes with point costs that add up to a certain value. Those heroes have some dice. Every turn, you get to roll those dice, and those dice allow you to do various actions. And you can earn resources and play cards, and those cards can give you more dice that you get to roll every turn. But there's a lot of interesting interaction back and forth as you both sides play. So it's sort of every you take an action, your opponent takes an action, you take an action, your opponent takes an action. There's a lot of like interesting sequencing and trying to sort of bait out certain activities so that you can like safely execute your plan. But ultimately, the reason why I had so much fun was I got to play as Rey and Han Solo flying around in the Millennium Falcon. And that was sweet. And I built a deck around Rey and Han Solo flying around in the Millennium Falcon. And it's a cool back and forth. The games don't seem to take too terribly long, although I think they take a little bit longer than a standard Magic game would. But Magic games are pretty quick nowadays.
Just so long as it's not Jihad length.
I don't know what that is.
It was the vampire collectible game.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't really playable unless you had at least 4 players, and it could take 4 or 5 hours to resolve an entire game. It was a card game that really wanted to be a board game.
Interesting. I think that this game currently has a kind of the limited number of heroes that you can pick from sort of limits your deck building capabilities right now. I'll be interested to see where the game is at in a set or two.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they probably had to do this given that the previous incarnations of card games also drew from the expanded universe, which most of that got nuked.
I mean, no one was playing the previous iterations of those card games. As somebody who still owns quite a bit of the old Decipher Star Wars collectible card game, no one's playing those card games anymore.
Yeah, that's the only one that I played. I didn't play the one that happened between now and then, around the time the prequels came out.
Yeah.
The Decipher games are weird.
They were great. I played Jawas, and it was awesome. But I'm still a little disappointed it's not a living card game. And like we were feeling the fact that it wasn't a living card game there. Although I'm sure that in their view, they're making quite a bit of money, so they're probably okay with it. And it's a fun game, so I'd like to play it some more. I do have one very big complaint. All of the characters are either rare or ultra rare rarity. Most of the characters can have 1 or 2 dices, depending on how many points you're willing to invest in them. And if you get one of those rare characters, you only get 1 dice. Yep. So
that seems backwards.
So you would have to get a second copy of that character in a different pack to get the second dice for them.
Okay, that's madness.
It is absolutely madness, and it was a real problem. We were just playing with regular D6s and being like, okay, these are what their faces are. But it was very frustrating.
Well, that's definitely going to have a Mr. Suitcase problem.
A Mr. Suitcase problem.
Yep. I know what Bel's referring to.
I don't even know if the term gets used, but the person who owns every Magic the Gathering card and breaks them out all the time in a giant suitcase.
Yeah, people would come in with like their deck in a deck box, and then Mr. Suitcase with his suitcase full of Magic cards, who had all of them, and who beat you because he had all of them and paid money for all of them.
I mean, it's a CCG. There's definitely some element of being able to pilot a deck well, being able to have a good deck, and then being able to pilot the deck well. Like, I actually think there's enough back and forth going on that there might even be, like, there's no, like, interrupt actions, but since you get a chance to respond with some action every single time your opponent makes a play, it felt like there was a lot of interactions.
That's cool. I like that.
I feel like having the turns flip back and forth that quickly really help with the game feeling interactive.
I mean, that's exactly what I like about Infinity over other minis games.
Yeah, although I know there are minis games that, like, I want to say Bushido does this, right? Where you take a turn and then your opponent takes a turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Note, also minis games I like.
Yeah, so this feels more like Bushido, where it's like, if I make this play, what is my opponent's immediate response? And if I can wait for my opponent to make this play, how can I appropriately respond to it? Like, there's a whole lot of, I'm looking at the dice my opponent has and deciding if, like, he can use those dice to kill me, and if so, how do I fix that issue immediately? But yeah, I think the back and forth structure of the turns are very, very good. Also, it is a dice game that has a lot of opportunity to manipulate your luck. Like, one of your options is discard a card, reroll as many dice as you want, which comes in handy, especially like when you're staring down a whole bunch of not useful dice. But there were also some interesting points where it's like, I had one of the dice faces allows you to take a dice and turn it to whatever face you want it to be on. And so the Millennium Falcon had one of its die faces that was take any two dice and turn them to whichever side you want them on. But that action then passes the turn back to your opponent, and there was definitely a lot of hesitation around, how do I change the facing of my dice in such a way that I'm getting the maximum amount of benefit, but I'm also not exposing myself to, like, my opponent has a card that easily collapses this plan in on itself, which happened a lot in those games, where I set up my dice very carefully and my opponent was able to easily disrupt my plan. So I was starting to build more resilience into my dice structures. It's a game that feels a lot less about, do you have the overwhelmingly good deck, and more about, can you figure out how to make this deck work based on what has happened to you? And I like that.
That is really interesting to me. That's probably the one thing I've heard about this game that makes me the most interested in it.
So I feel like we kind of buzzed through topics way faster than I thought we would this evening.
I'm pretty sure we've got a show's worth of stuff, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we still definitely talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that anyone wants to discuss before we wrap things up?
I kind of hope we do a spoiler show for Final Fantasy XV at some point.
I require more of us to beat Final Fantasy XV.
I mean, sure. I don't think it's something that's going to happen, like, now or soon, but
I think it's a thing that I'm also going to want to do at some point.
Yup.
Well, in that case, hopefully you all enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.